Hello everyone, this is Jesper Mosegaard from Luxian speaking. I'm going to turn on my webcam so that you can see who is presenting tonight. Hello everyone, you can see I'm wearing the company shirt even though I'm in my home. Oh, and it crashed. I'm so sorry about that. I think everyone lost my visuals here. I'm just going to launch it again from the laptop that we're presenting from. So, just a second here. That's a wonderful start, of course, for GoToWebinar to crash. But rest assured, we have exciting things to show you. Let's see. Okay, everyone should be able to see me again. Right. And this is a small disaster. Seems I cannot share my screen anymore.
I would probably just turn off your webcam. That might be part of the issue.
We can see your laptop screen.
Yeah, but it's frozen. This is marvelous. Of course, I'm so sorry about the wait. Okay, just give me 2 minutes more. And for some reason, I cannot even join it anymore from the laptop. Okay, so unfortunately, I think I will have to restart the entire laptop. I am so sorry about this. This is what happens if you want to do live demos, of course.
Well, in the meantime, why don't we kick off a poll to get started? Should we do the current hardware poll, Josh?
Sounds good. I'll launch the hardware poll here. Here we go.
Yep. We can do a fun poll as we're waiting.
Remember, there's no wrong answer, folks.
Okay, we can, all right, looks like most people have voted on that one. If you want to close that one, we can kick off the next one.
Okay, the next poll is, are you using VR in production? We will launch this poll now as well.
Okay. So I guess I am the presenter now again on the VR laptop, at least I should be.
It looks like it, yeah.
Okay, very good. So I will now share my screen again. Here we go.
Okay.
I am so sorry about the delay. So as it turns out, the GoToWebinar totally crashed on me and I needed to restart. So here we go. So you're here today to learn about or see what it is we've been doing within the field of virtual reality. So I dare press the webcam again just for you guys to say hello. Okay, so this is me. The reason I wanted to turn on the webcam is because I wanted to show you this one. So you guys are probably familiar with VR. If not, be ready to be shown an entirely new world. This is one of the VR headsets that you can buy today. It's relatively cheap. You can connect it to your desktop or your laptop. As is the case here, I'm running everything from my laptop. And I'm going to show you guys what you're able to do with a VR helmet and this little program we call KeyVR. So you'll notice if you already know KeyShot that KeyVR is not something you're familiar with. It's something new that we're doing here at Luxon. So, but let me start the story out at a different place. So I'm completely crazy about VR. So the fact that you can get this helmet onto your head and all of the sudden get this feeling that you're somewhere else, I feel, and the team at Luxon feels, that this can really enable new decisions to be made. So what can you do in VR? Well, you can actually experience a product, or you can really experience a design. You can be within a piece of architecture. It's just like being there, which also means that you can make some of the same decisions that you can if you hold a product in your hand, if you can really look at the details of your design up front. And now you can do it totally digitally. Of course, you may argue that this is already the case in KeyShot. So I hope you can see my screen here. This is a very nice model of a very nice car. And as you know, you can, yeah? Oh, sorry. I thought I had something. So you can here see here you can see a car, of course. Now within KeyShot, you can set up everything. You can pull in your 3D model from almost any CAD format out there. You can set up your camera to just point of view you'd like to render, and of course, you can set up your scene with the CAD files. You can set up your model sets. You can pull in materials. So in this case, with this very nice guide, I experimented with some different materials that I think could be very nice for this car. So one of them is totally crazy. It's a gold car. But then this is still just an image, and there's nothing wrong with an image. An image can tell you a lot about the design, but I'm not experiencing the car. I'm not standing right beside it. So let's see what we can do if we were to take on the challenge of standing right next to it. Now, you may notice this small button down here, and you may never have noticed this small button down here because it didn't exist before. So this is a KeyShot 8, but on the same machine we have KeyVR installed. So as I press this button, I am transformed into this interface. And you may wonder, well, what happened here, Jesper? Nothing really seemed to differ. And if that's the case, I'm really happy, because this image here is a rendering, but it's an entirely new rendering engine, one that can deliver a high quality image based on the same data that you set up within KeyShot, but it's fully interactive. So what you may not see on the GoToMeeting is the fact that this is running at 208 frames per second. And these are final quality frames. This is what is needed to go into VR. So before I pull on my VR helmet, let me just talk a bit about why we wanted this one-click solution that can take everything you've set up in KeyShot and then launch into VR. Well, we looked at what's already possible, and a lot of our users have been asking for the possibility to export 3D data or materials or cameras, environment into VR. So the way you can do it today, of course, is to export into FBX format. You can do that within KeyShot. In version 8, you can export to GLTF, but then comes some of the issues. So often CAD data is difficult to get into some of the solutions that are there for VR today, and some of the most prominent ones are the game engines, of course. And game engines can deliver an amazing quality, but it's still difficult for them to actually import the CAD data. It might be a bit easier if you put it into KeyShot first, but it's still a difficult thing. Then comes the materials. So you may have noticed I'm now going to shift back into KeyShot, that these materials, or this one in particular, actually looks pretty much the same. This is part of the great strength of building this tool directly into KeyShot, is that the materials are just the same as in KeyShot. If you've ever tried to take on your materials into a game engine, you know that you need to almost reinvent the materials within the often strict confines of a game engine. The other thing is, and this is part of what I'm going to demo to you guys, is that a lot of the features of KeyShot, so stuff like multi-materials, model sets, environments, your cameras, everything doesn't really translate into existing engines. And this is where we also wanted to really make it easy. So just again, this one-click solution. So let me just try and enable VR here. So now I'm gonna put on my VR goggles, and you're gonna see what I'm seeing. So I now feel like I'm actually standing right next to this beautiful car. So in my hand, I have a controller, and in just a minute, you're gonna see it as I'm turning it on. Here we go. This is my controller, so this is my hand. You may see that on top of this controller, it says menu. Okay, let's try and click this menu and see what can happen. As I click the menu, what I'm presented with is a number of options. So one of the things that I like to do is to get up a bit closer to this car, just to marvel at the detail of it. Oh my God, I would really like this car. This is beautiful. You probably noticed that within KeyShot, one of the things that I set up was some of our multi-materials. So of course, multi-materials is just one way to modify the appearance of my car. So I actually want to find out whether or not I like this Porsche most in the orange, or maybe, let's see, gold. Wow, I guess you need to have a lot of money to have a gold Porsche. We can also try with this very matte black, which is also beautiful, and I can marvel at all the details of it. Okay, so this is of course, one of the things you can take directly from KeyShot into VR. So I can have a look at all the small details of this car. Another piece of information that we can take in directly, that's our cameras. So you notice I could teleport around, but I also have some cameras here. One up there, I can try and go up. Now all of a sudden I'm really high up. Okay, good, I'm not scared of heights, but still it's very far up. Or I could go into the driver's seat. So I can now inspect all the details of my car from within the driver's seat. The only thing, of course, I'm missing is my body. That's missing for some reason here in VR. Let me just get out again. Here we go. And have a look at the car again. So just like in KeyShot, the appearance of the car, of course, is directly influenced by the light environment. So in this case, is just an HDRI environment, and I can change if I'd like to. I can change into one of the designed environments here. That gives me more of a studio appearance for my car. You may notice I can't actually see the environment, and that's because I selected a color as a background within KeyShot again. I can try and select one of the other ones. There is this beautiful one where the car is looking over the cliff here. One of the features that I use from within KeyShot is this flattened ground. So I actually have the feeling that I'm standing on this road and looking at my car. Now, one of the things I love about this setting specifically is that if I change the materials to one of the more glossy appearance one, again, I really love this orange one. I can actually have this look. I can really see the reflections of the environment on the hood of the car. Now, one of the interesting things, of course, if you're in VR, is to just interact with whatever you have here. Now, what we can do is that we can fully dynamically move things around. So I can take my car and I can move it. Okay, that's cool. All the environment lighting affects correctly. I can also move the environment itself. You can see everything behaves as expected. Now, you may ask, can I throw around this car? Yes, of course you can. Let's enable physics. And let's grab this car. Oh yeah, it feels heavy already. Let's see. Whoa. Okay, so I guess most of you thought you were never gonna throw around a car, but if you're in VR, anything is possible. Again, throwing around a car like this is all fun, but it's actually most fun if you have something to throw it into. Let me just reset the scene. And one of the other things we have in KeyShot is model sets. So I want to change the model set here, and I actually did two model sets, one of the car itself and one of the car and a number of primitives. Oh, there we have them. This is all nice because if I now enable physics again and try and move stuff, I actually have this nice ball thing I can move around. Let's see what happens if we take this car and jam it into it. Okay, good. I have no idea what you need this for when it comes to design decisions, but sometimes fun is also good, and I'll let you guys think about what can be done with physics and VR. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off my VR goggles, and I'm just going to show you what the different features of KeyVR that's supported from within KeyShot. So I'm taking off my VR helmet here, and I'm going to close the VR application, and we're going to go back into KeyShot. And I hope you guys can see what I'm seeing here within KeyShot. So let's look at this a bit. Let's see what we can really do. So I made a number of different materials here. I even made one with a wooden car with a bump map on top of it. I really want to show this to you guys because this is also one of the things that we, of course, support within KeyVR. I am wondering if I lost the visuals again. I think maybe I did, which is really unfortunate.
I think it is. We only see the VR application.
Okay, so we need to find a different provider than the webinar, because everything's running here on my laptop. I'm so sorry about that again. Funny thing is that it did run for 45 minutes before starting this webinar. Let me just see if I can log in again. It's not going to take as much time as before, because now I know what to do. I will join again. Let's see. Okay, and if this doesn't work, of course, I will just talk you guys through what else we have. It seems to be broken. I am so sorry about that. Okay, anyway, so just to continue some of the talk about what it is we can then do, I hope you got the experience that I could actually do fully interactive 3D in KeyVR. And now the thing is that this is supposed to be this one-click solution. So we're thinking about KeyShot as the hub for setting up your scene, your photoreal scene, with the environment, with your materials applied to your CAD model, with the cameras, and with the animation. So all of these things we support within KeyVR. And so this all of a sudden opens up to the possibility of actually doing design decisions. So some of the decisions you can think about is that, well, which kind of materials would I like to choose? You can set this up within KeyShot, and you can render it or run it within KeyVR and go through the different multi-materials. You can also set up variations of shape or geometry, and also again materials through the model set capabilities. So again, with the model sets, you can switch between the model sets. Now I used it for something fun for these the ball and the cube, to have them together with the Porsche, but it might as well have been different cars that we wanted to have a look at, or different variations of products that we wanted to see. Of course, you can have different environment lights. So we fully support within KeyVR all the environments that you can set up within KeyShot. So you can even, through the HDRI editor, design your own environment light. And this will be fully supported within KeyVR, so that you can really inspect the appearance of your design in great detail. And then, of course, comes the cameras. Now, you can still see the frozen image, which is good, because on the left side you can actually see that there are a number of UI elements. And this is another very important part of getting things into VR. So one of the things you can see is a camera. Now, a camera, why do you need a camera in VR? Well, often you would need a camera in VR because you want to direct people. You want to direct them where to look. You want to direct them to what they need to be very aware of. Now, one thing, of course, is to set up cameras, and you can choose between the cameras, just like I chose between the camera when you saw the VR. I could go into the driver's seat. But the other thing is that you have this boss mode that you can see on the left. Well, we call it boss mode up until now. It doesn't really say boss in the user interface. But the whole idea here is, as a designer, I would set up my scene with the choices that I want either myself or my colleague or maybe my boss to make. But sometimes I would need to guide. So you can see on the left side of the unfortunately frozen screen here, it says where it says scene, you have the model set. So you can actually, from the UI of the machine running the VR, you can select between the different model sets, or you can select between the different cameras. And the person within VR will be transported into that location if it was a camera. If I change the model set, of course, that one will then again change. So in this way, you can actually set up a whole series of decisions within KeyShot that can then be experienced as you go into VR. Now, we've been working on this for most of a year now, and we feel that this is quite stable. And I am very sorry about the crashing. That's not KeyVR. KeyVR is a very robust program. So we've been working on, and of course there are a bunch of things that we would like to implement in the future. We have this whole list of things, and maybe just to mention a few of those. is that right now we can implement the most often used materials. You can select those. But there are certain materials that are not supported yet, and specifically the material graph in itself. So building up advanced materials is one of those things that we have chosen not to support in the first version. So that is part of what we're going to look at in the upcoming versions of KeyVR. The other things we've heard from a lot of our users is that we would like some kind of multi-user, and maybe multi-user across distance, so that you can actually have this multi-gaming environment where you can talk with designers at an entirely different location and still look at the same object. And this is something that I guess only VR can actually give you. The fact that you can feel like you're at a location with someone else who's really, really far away. But the KeyVR as it is now is what I showed to you guys. Now, one of the things that we're then looking to do now is that we have our application. We want to get it into the hands of users soon. So what we've decided to do is to launch an early access program for KeyVR. So this is a paid program where you can get access to the application as you saw it on the screen, and it can interface directly with KeyShot. So you will get this additional button within KeyShot where you can launch KeyVR, and it will take the entire scene and transport you into VR. One of the important things that we also offer as part of this program is to get the direct communication line with the developers, because this will enable you to, as a user, to come to us with some of the needs you have, some of the wishes you see for the future. And I need to point out that, of course, you guys have been selected and invited because we think you have something to give us or share with us when it comes to what you really want to use VR for. So, I mean, we would really like you guys to give us your opinion about VR and where VR could be used. If you think you would be interested in getting to be part of the early access program, I would ask you to contact our sales team, and they will definitely help you onto it. Now, I am very sorry that I didn't quite follow the polls, and I'm wondering if we got through all the polls. I can see there's still one that we didn't get through. This, of course, is one that we've been thinking about as well. So KeyVR is one of the solutions out there, and we do think this is one of the easy one-click solutions there. But we're still wondering which other tools you're looking to evaluate. And so this is a poll that I think I'm going to launch now as well. Now, I'm sorry about the technical issues we had here. I hope I could still give you guys an impression about what KeyVR is. And I'm wondering, Josh, if we could open up for questions.
Yes, absolutely. So you'll see a questions area in the side panel there. And if you have any questions, just pop one in there and we'll be happy to answer. So Jesper, one question we have here is if you could share the headset model and laptop specs.
Oh, right. Yes. So in all the confusion, of course, one of the things that was on my list of agendas here was a hardware. So the specific hardware I was using here, it's a laptop, but it is a gamer's laptop. So it's from the Republic of Gamers. It has a GPU, the GeForce GTX 1080, in a mobile edition. So it's a quite good gamer's laptop. One of the benefits that we've seen from a laptop is that you can actually take it around. So you want to show people VR, then it becomes very easy with a laptop. And that only goes, of course, if the VR helmet itself is also something that can be easily taken around. And in this case, this is one of the Windows mixed reality headsets. It's a specific brand the Lenovo one. The way it works is Windows Mixed Reality headsets. That's an umbrella term for a number of different headsets produced by different vendors. So the Lenovo one is the one we've got here. But Samsung produces one that's excellent as well. KeyVR supports the major headsets out there. So you have the Oculus Rift series of headsets, and you have the HTC Vive series of headsets, and we support them all.
Great, thanks, Jesper. Along with that, and you may have touched on this a little bit, are there any extra computer specifications required for KeyVR?
Right. So KeyVR, unlike KeyShot, is entirely dependent on the GPU. So you do need a powerful GPU. We recommend the GeForce GTX 1080 or the AMD Vega 64 to get the highest frame rate possible. It does run on lower spec GPUs, but the frame rate is going to be lower as well. And frame rate is actually one of the things that is extremely important as you go into VR. You may think, well, is it really necessary to do the 90 frames per second? But that turns out it's extremely important to do the 90 frames a second, because this is exactly the frame rate, or the frame rate above that, that gives you the feeling of actually being there. So you get such fast frame rate that you feel like this is not even a movie. This is me being within a room. So frame rate is extremely important. This is one of the reasons that we did our entirely own custom rendering engine to actually get that fast frame rate while still having something that has a very, very high graphics quality.
Great, thanks. And I hope that answers your question also, Dennis, about the GPU. A good question for Mark here. Automobiles, of course, are great. They sit on the ground. For product designers, though, they need to evaluate something closer to eye level. Any environments and props to provide industrial designers to evaluate consumer products in gallery/store home environments?
Right, and that's a very, very good question. This is one of the things that I did mention that we have on our roadmap, because we do understand that in order to evaluate products that are not the size of a car, then you actually need to evaluate it in an environment. It often only makes sense because it is in an environment. So imagine the shoe. Shoe makes sense. You can see it up front, but really you want to put it on your foot, or you want to see it on shelves. And so part of what we're gonna go look at is to have different environments for you to choose between, that you can use as a basis for the environment. So this goes beyond, of course, what you have currently within KeyShot. When you have often when you have environments, it's the HDRI environment around the product you look at. But still, we're then looking at having other kinds of 3D objects that you could put into the environment, or that you could put your products on top of. So good question there.
Thank you. And another hardware question, well, kind of has to do with both. What's the highest polygon count that you can get without lagging or stuttering, and on good hardware?
Okay, so highest, that's a difficult question, because there's a lot of things that depends on it. I've seen some of our models being run on something like 38 million polygons, and it runs, but you don't get a very, very smooth experience. It also depends on your GPU, of course. It also depends on where you look, because part of the optimizations we build into this is that you only render what's needed. So if you see the entire thing, so if let's say you see 5 million polygons, then that's probably going to be about the limit of it. But then if you're only looking at parts of a model with 5 million polygons, then you would actually be able to go higher if you only looked at parts of it. And this, of course, is something we're going to improve, but that's still a reasonable number.
Great, thank you. All right, we have another one from Benny here. Would KeyVR benefit from the additional front sensors from headsets like HTC Vive Pro or the regular Oculus Rift?
So front sensors being the camera, or are we talking about the Windows Mixed Reality that does the inside-out tracking? Maybe I can talk about both. So the marvelous thing about the Windows Mixed Reality headsets, for example, is that they do inside-out tracking, which means that you don't need the base stations of the HTC Vive and Rift, which is really nice if you want to take your laptop with you and show things to potential customers or to your boss or to the executives. The other thing is maybe the cameras themselves. So can we do see-through so that you get this kind of an AR feel to it? And we currently don't offer that within KeyVR, but this is definitely one of the things that we are definitely looking into, because we do recognize that at some point in the future, AR headsets will also be available in a quality high enough. And at that point in time, of course, you want to inspect your model within the physical realm that you're in. And so we could definitely leverage the cameras on the VR headsets or target the AR headsets themselves.
Great, thank you. So some KeyShot KeyVR related questions. Can you elaborate on the link between KeyShot and KeyVR? For instance, can I put only KeyVR on a laptop as standalone? And then also in terms of, say, for instance, a plugin, if you go from a 3D modeling software to KeyShot and then to VR, is there a link between all three? Can the design be updated? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Oh yeah, and very good questions again, because you may have noticed that KeyVR was actually launched as a separate application. It was a separate application from KeyShot. And this is the way we're thinking about it. It is a separate application, so you have KeyShot and you have KeyVR. Now the button that I pressed was a link, or established a link between KeyShot and KeyVR, so that I could see the scene immediately after having set it up in KeyShot. But it is a separate application. So what you can do is that you can save out your KSP, or you can save out your BIP file as long as you remember all your resources, and you can transfer them to a different PC. So maybe you have a special VR PC with a very big graphics card, and you can launch it on that without having KeyShot on that machine. So it's two different applications. Now we also had the question, what happens with my link to the original CAD data? Well, KeyShot already has the link to the original CAD data. So as long as you use KeyShot as a hub to modify the materials, to modify the environment light, then you keep the original link to the CAD application as well.
All right, thank you, Jesper. So Ben is asking, he says they use KeyShot predominantly on the laptops, but then they also have a separate VR rig. Are there any ways to quickly, easily transfer a VR scene from one machine to another?
So that's almost a feature request. Thank you so much, Ben. That could be marvelous. I think maybe it can already be solved quite easily. So what you could do is that you can save your KSP to a network drive, where the VR machine you have also has access to the same network drive, and you can launch it directly from there. But maybe we need like a special live attached connection. That could be an idea for future development, definitely.
That'd be great. Okay, so some questions about the program itself. When does it start? What is the cost? How can they find out more?
Right. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm extremely happy about the fact that we can now offer this early access program. I think it's a very good opportunity for us to get involved with you guys. And I hope this also is a way for us to show you guys that we actually mean serious business. We want this to be a program, and we want to go into dialogue with you guys. Now, when is it available? Well, it's available from now. First come, first serve. You just need to call your sales representative from Luxian or email him. So I know Garrett is on the line here, Jeff is on the line. They can definitely take your orders afterwards. And they will also be the ones to discuss any pricing issues.
Do you want to talk a bit about, Jesper, about how we're kind of planning on releasing updates to people in the program that basically will sort of be interfacing with them, and then, you know, releasing at certain intervals updates based on, you know, feedback and suggestions?
Right, and Derek, you almost said it all there, of course. So this is the whole idea of the early access program is twofold. So one is we want to give you guys access to KeyVR. We believe it's a robust solution. You can use it already now. We do offer support as part of it. But the reason we call it an early access program is also because we want to communicate with you guys. We want to develop the program as we speak with you, as we discuss what it should or should not be, as we fine tune the details. The way we want to do this is to have like a direct communication channel. So we envision having, this may be a foreign word to you guys, we envision having a Slack channel. So this is a communication tool where we can discuss live on the features or the wishes or the feedback we can get. And then we're going to incorporate, of course, as much as we can or what we find suitable for a product into the development. And we're going to release at a steady cycle of it may be a couple of weeks between it, but at least once a month, we're going to update the application with the current development. And Derek, please chime in if I forgot anything there.
No, as I say, I mean, obviously, this is a bit new in terms of how we're doing this, and the focus really is to, as much as possible, get inside the evaluation program that companies are running, as much as possible, test against production data, and figure out the ways this can help make design decisions. So it's really meant to be, a very kind of interactive program. And yeah, we'll try Slack. We'll figure out what the best channels are to kind of communicate with people. But the idea is to keep this focused on, a relatively small group of customers that are really focused on driving the workflows and solving these problems with VR. And I think maybe additional questions, Josh, that we want to.
Yeah, do we have some time for some more?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Keep them rolling.
Okay. So one question is Mac OS supported?
Right. Yeah. macOS is not supported in the first versions of KeyVR. It's a Windows-only solution.
Okay. And graphics card question, is it compatible with the NVIDIA 2000 series graphics cards with the RTX features?
Oh yeah, the RTX feature. That one's interesting. KeyVR is definitely supported by the newer NVIDIA graphics card, and you'll get a performance increase definitely.
Great, thank you. And on some of the features, let's see, there's a couple questions here. So first, can you scale the model in VR? And second, are emissive materials available? And do labels on materials transfer?
Right, so scaling of model. The way we've set it up right now, you need to set up your scale within KeyShot. What you can do is that you can set up different scales with model sets, choose between those. One of the things that we have talked about, of course, is the opportunity to actually do the scaling itself within VR. And this is one of the things that we really like to talk with you about, because it's not obvious why you would need it, when you would need it, and how we can avoid getting really dizzy and having discomfort. So I'd really like to talk with you guys about how to use it, why you would need it, and in which situations it makes sense. Some of the things that we've discussed is that we could have some kind of scale tool, but you would definitely need to have the opportunity to snap back, and you would still need to feel anchored in the environment in order for you not to get dizzy or feel this uncomfortable feeling of things just moving around you while you're sitting still. There was a question on the emissive materials, right? I do know doing emissive materials is one of the ways, of course, in which you can do lighting setups within KeyShot. Right now, we do not support the emissive materials, but this is definitely one of the things that we will look into as part of our roadmap moving forward. And there was a question on labels. Labels right now are not directly supported. But this is, again, one of the things that we do want to support moving forward. This is part of reading and baking the entire material graph information into a number of texture channels that we can then use. The one thing that we do support within KeyShot is the different texture mapping formats. So you have the box mapping or the cylinder mapping or the sphere mapping. Those are directly supported, and this is one of the things, one of the features that that you will find are difficult to support if you go the direction with the game engines, because game engines are built for UV mapped materials, and that's what they support. So really what you need if you go that direction, and you can get incredible results of course, but you do need a game graphics artist and you do need a programmer to go that direction. So the mappings can be directly supported, but right now we don't support the labels.
Great, thank you. And another vote for multi-user from Justin. A comment from Mark: scaling is useful in VR to examine something close up. It works great in something like Google Tilt Brush. It's hard to look at objects close up in VR due to the 2-meter fixed focus nature of headsets.
And that's a very good point. Very good point, yes.
And Paul has a question, and I think you touched a little bit on this. Are there limitations on texture mapping or types of texture mapping?
Right, so there are some limitations here, and part of KeyVR is also a manual where you can see all these details on how you can use it and where you can use it. And just to touch maybe a bit on the limitations currently, if you do set up multi-materials for your model, and the multi-materials have textures, then they need to be of the same type. So you need box mapping as a type, or you need cylinder mapping as a type, or UV mapping as a type across the multi-materials. Across that, you can have different parameters for it. So you can have different sizes or rotations on it, but it does need to be the same type right now. The other thing is that let me just touch upon what kind of textures we do support here, because we do support the diffuse texture channel, but we also support, and I hope you got to see just a bit of that we do support the bump mapping channel as well, so you can get that additional fine detail on the surface. We support the specular channel as well, so you can actually direct the amount of specular, and we do support the gloss channel as well, so you can get different amounts of glossy, like or very specular reflections on a material as well. You can control all these elements with your texture channels, and these all work in KeyVR.
Great, thank you. One more here. Can you pan zoom dolly with the VR controllers other than just teleport?
Oh yeah, excellent question. Excellent question. Because you would expect it to be there, right? The fact that you would be able to pan zoom dolly. I've even had requests for why don't we just move around like in a first-person shooter? And I'd love to implement these features. The only unfortunate thing is that most people will feel ill, so they get kind of a reverse motion sickness, because you move around what you see, but your body is standing still. And so, yeah, Mark just commented, vomitastic. So vomitastic. You just get nauseous if you do that. And so, teleport is not the ideal solution for moving around in VR. Really, what you want is you want a big room, and then you can move freely around. And we fully support this. You can move freely around if you have a big enough room. But of course, a room has walls, and at some point you're going to end up against the wall. I mean, there's there's a system for you not to walk into the walls, but you're going to end up being close to the wall. And in that case, you will need to somehow translate the VR space. And teleport currently is a solution that everyone uses out there. Until we can get these big hamster wheels that we can run in, that's going to be the solution. And so unfortunately, we're probably not going to implement any kind of first-person shooter mode or zooming or panning in VR, simply because you get nauseous.
I think the application here that is being referred to is a product that is larger than a lot of rooms.
Ah, that one's excellent as well. Actually, this is one of the areas where VR can really shine, because even if you're in a small room, you can view objects that are much, much larger than that room, simply because you can establish the new room you're in. One of the models I've been working with is this huge rocket, like I don't know, 200 meters high, 150 meters high, and it's absolutely no problem to get transported around to different vantage points if you can stomach the height of it, or you can even teleport yourself around. And let's imagine you can teleport yourself up front to one of the engines, and then you can move a bit around in the physical space, whatever you have room for, and then teleport yourself further on.
Love it. That sounds awesome. Let's see.
More questions?
Any more questions here? Comments from Mark on blurring the peripheral vision during locomotion or environment rotation is helpful.
Oh yeah, and
Google
I
Earth
do
does
agree.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And Mark is referring, of course, to Google Earth and the way they did it. And Mark also has another excellent suggestion on the IKEA kitchen simulator, where you can scale and experience other stuff. I think this is one of the things where it will be excellent for us to get into the direct dialogue, because there are so many good ideas out there in games or in visualization toolkits that exploit VR. And really, this is one of the things that I find extremely exciting about VR right now, is that this is a new medium, right? And the some of the things that we're showing you guys is the way to do it, I do think. But there are so many things that have not been experimented with yet, where we can find these new solutions for a problem we didn't even know existed. Because I have this firm belief that VR can give you the chance to experience objects. And I do mean experience, not just visualize or see, but experience them. I do think this is a very strong thing. But I also know that we're not done experimenting with VR. There may be things that we didn't even imagine you can use VR for.
And will there be I think there are some on a current version of KeyVR. Is there a new update coming to as of today?
Any current users should definitely contact sales for direction on where we go. And I see new questions coming in.
Yep, we have, let's see, are you aware of Gravity Sketch? Yes, we are. We love it. Terrell says it might be a good example of how a designer might interface in a VR world. There's a mode to move the camera and a mode to move the objects. I
Right,
think you're
I
familiar with that.
really like Gravity Sketch. Yeah, and we get excited about and inspired from many of these applications on a daily basis. It's all about selecting the right thing for our users and what they need.
Measurement tools. Are there any features that would be able to use measurements?
So not in the current version of VR, but that again is definitely one of the things that we do have on the roadmap. And again, one of the important things for us is to figure out how to prioritize this roadmap through the discussion with you. Measurement is one of the things that we do find could be important in VR. So, and not measurement maybe as in how long is this object, because you know that already. I mean, you got the CAD model, you can do measurements within CAD tools, but more how do things fit? Will I fit? Will my tool fit? And this sort of inquiry or questions we do support, because you can grab onto one of your objects and you can pull it closer up to another object to see, would this actually fit? Would my tool fit within the motor of some engine, or would my shoes fit on the shelves? And this can already be done, as in do things fit. But maybe we need more accurate solutions, as in how far do I need to walk, what's the distance between things or objects, and I would need to know more about the specific applications here. But we do talk about measurement tools, definitely.
Great, thank you. And a question on compatibility. Is it compatible with just KeyShot 8 or also KeyShot 7?
It is compatible with any BIP file or a KSP file you put in there. So we do read, and I challenge you guys to come up with a very old KeyShot file that we may not read, but the whole idea is that you can put into KeyVR any BIP file, any KSP file you have. Now, if you want to exploit some of the newer functionality of KeyShot 7 or KeyShot 8, of course, you need that version in order to build, for example, multi-materials or the model sets. But the whole idea, again, is that KeyVR can actually eat any kind of KSP or BIP file that you've built. I would say one thing that's important is that you should consider what the user will do within the scene or within the environment, because being within an environment and experiencing your products is not the same as setting up a beautiful image necessarily. So one of the things I've seen happening a lot is that users may not be aware of the scale of things, and so it is actually important in VR that things are of the correct scale. Imagine you had and I've seen this, a car that's 100 meters long, and then a car that's 100 meters long in VR actually looks like a huge car. But of course, in KeyShot, everything looks nice because you just set up the camera and you don't really think about the fact that it's a very, very large car. So this is one of the things where you need to design for VR. And then, of course, I do think you need to design for the choices or the questions you want answered in VR, but that's an entirely different thing.
Okay, we have a question from John here. Is sectioning on the roadmap?
So sectioning as in looking into, I guess, or removing things so that you can look into. Yes, if that's the suggestion or question here, this is one of the things that we've experimented with, but have not done as a tool within the current KeyVR. It's a question of us enabling this. So you would have like this sphere that you can cut into the object and have a look at it. Now it's not the same as the cutaway tool, the excellent cutaway tool, by the way, in KeyShot 8. So you don't necessarily get a beautiful appearance as you cut into the object, but you can look into the raw 3D geometry. And John, please ask a question again if sectioning was not cutting into.
Answered it, so thank you, John. Can one select and hide a part while in VR?
That's an excellent suggestion. It's not something we directly support right now. It would definitely be easy for us to implement. So we should talk more about why and where you would use it. What can be done right now is to set up model sets. So you can set up different model sets for the different elements or objects you want hidden, shown, and you can switch between the model sets. One of the reasons we wanted to do it this way in the initial implementation is because our design philosophy has been that you set up the different choices you want to see within KeyShot, and then in KeyVR you can cycle through or switch between the different setups of CAD files, geometry, material, environment, and cameras. And I can see John has a point. What are the next steps? He's got to go to another meeting, and I definitely understand that. We hit the 1 hour mark for, and I'm sorry, a bit of a broken presentation because of the webinar failure, but next steps, I think I mentioned part of them. The next step for you guys, I would hope, is to get in contact with sales and to hear more about how to get into the early access program.
This is Jeff Hayden speaking. I just want to let everybody know that the sales team will reach out to you if you don't reach out to us first and talk about the pricing and the structure.
And thanks everyone for attending.
Greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Jesper.
Thank you.